welcome to another edition of the Pick and Dimes podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebush. How you fellas doing?
Doing well, man. We got perfect timing for the podcast, man. Both conference finals wrapping up. Well, we got the finals in 2 days, man. Shout out to that dude who's got the Oilers and the Thunder to win that, $250,000 parlay on a $5 bet or whatever it was, man.
$5?
It was might have been 10, but 250 grand. He predicted all the way back from the previous WNBA champion to the Dodgers last year, the Eagles this year, and then he has the Oilers who are in the finals for hockey. And he's got the Thunder in the obviously in the NBA finals, man. So He said he's a cash out of $92K right now, but he's waiting for 100. So all he needs is the Thunder to win a game, and then it'd probably bump him over.
Yeah, you go way out the Thunder. Wow. I don't know about the Oilers. I don't know about you guys know about hockey. But
yeah, me either.
Weird upsets happen.
Weird upsets happen, and here's the thing: a lot of people have a superstition. If you touch the conference championship trophy, then you got jinxed for the final.
Yeah, I've heard that.
David, the GOAT in the NHL, he touched it, man. When they won, he touched the Western Conference trophy. But Wayne Gretzky also won 4 times touching it, so we're the same team. So, superstitions are kind of dumb, but, man, that guy has the cojones to hold on through, man. Good for him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do man. I'd take the 92K.
No, yeah, I'm about to say I would cash that out. And you're saying the highest he can get out of that is 100,000?
No, it's up to 250. He's like, I would never cash out until it's at least 6 figures. That's
okay. Okay. Well, then that's a little bit. I don't know, man.
Don't mess with. Win game 1. That's all I gotta say. I get a little nervous every time.
Yeah, I don't.
Get a little nervous.
Every situation, and I always assume people who bet like that and risk stuff like that is like maybe they're just. I always assume it's never true, and I can't confirm. But I always think like they're just kind of maybe better off in life. So like maybe if they didn't win it and they just lost everything, I'm like, oh, they're fine. I don't know. Just me being money conscious, I would definitely take that 92 and put it to work, but. Shout out to him, man. Some people like say they just know what's going on in terms of sports betting, and sometimes it's just luck, man. Who knows?
It is.
But NBA season, sadly coming to an end with the finals coming up. But one thing we wanted to do was give a little bit of a look back of what happened in the last series with 2 teams in particular, the Knicks and the Timberwolves, and there were a lot of questions on the Timberwolves side and the Knicks side, and I wanted to ask the fellas, what are some things maybe they can do in the offseason, or should they just stand pat and People, you can start this off.
I'll go with the Wolves because I'll let Mr. Zoo himself talk about the Knicks and the Thibodeau situation. But, on the Wolves side, we talked about this, when they were obviously struggling against the Thunder mid-series. I mentioned before the series that Mike Conley was going to have to do at least a little something, and he did absolutely nothing. I think we all agree that if Ant is required to be your primary ball handler, even though he very much improved as a playmaker this year, teams are just going to take advantage of that, knowing that they don't have another guy that can really take you off the dribble with multiple different moves and get his own shot. I mean, we know Julius can do it, but you know which way he's going every single time, and you can eventually force him out of that with help defense, force him to be a 40% three-point shooter, which – he was for most of the playoffs, and shout out to him. But obviously, I think, Zoo, you mentioned this. He might be in contract year this year for Julius Randle.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There we go, right? So, if they do decide to pay him, which I have a feeling that they probably will, just because they don't want to blow it up. This team has made the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. And we talked about that it's going to be very hard for them to break through with not only the Thunder, but we got other teams like the Spurs on the horizon too. The Rockets actually showed a little bit of something this year as well, being one of the young and up and coming teams. So, just looking at this T-Wolves roster, I mean, Gobert's there, Ant's there. Conley's probably, I don't know his contract situation, but he should probably be out of there, or at least out of the starting lineup. Jaden McDaniels obviously going to be there, and they got their solid role players. They honestly have a great built team.
They have a good bench.
Is a great point guard, man, who can not only facilitate and be a good ball handler and take care of the ball like Mr. Halliburton over there putting up 12 assists and no turnovers. They need a guy not to that caliber necessarily because we know what payday that's going to require. But they got to develop Rob Dillingham. I'm surprised they didn't try and give him a little bit more minutes in the playoffs. I mean, he barely played right at the end of that Thunder series, kind of when things were in the shitter for him. So, maybe I don't know if that debilitates his experience at all. Maybe just watching Conley, not that he was a grace to watch this year, but Conley has obviously been in huge games throughout his career, is a very well-seasoned player in the NBA. I'm sure he learned pointers from him, but you got to have the experience of just playing in difficult games. And I'm surprised they didn't give him a little more shot at that. So I don't know how many moves they can make. I feel like they are pretty constricted with their cap.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just have to really give their young players a chance to truly develop. And I think that starts with getting Mike Conley out of the starting lineup and just giving Rob Dillingham a better chance, because we know what a player he is. He's a good scorer, good shooter. So, I think that's really where they got to start. I'm not sure what else I would recommend unless they decided to move off some of their bench guys to flip for a star. But that means you're giving up more draft capital, which they do not have, as we talked about with the Rudy Gobert trade years ago. So, they're kind of, I hate to say it, they're a great team that's in no man's land. And I think that's the issue being.
Okay, I wouldn't go with no man's land because they have that superstar that they could build around.
Sure, but what are they going to do?
They could do something with Julius Randle. They could either try to sign him and trade him.
Sure.
And see what you could get for him and rejigger the roster. And I think you mentioned the biggest thing is developing the young guys, especially Dillingham taking Mike Conley's starting job because he was a top 10 draft pick.
Yeah.
And they traded up. They traded to get this guy. So they really believe in his talent for the future. And as you mentioned, Anthony Edwards, he needs another playmaker beside him. Mike Conley, he might retire next year. He just might. Like, that's a very possible situation. So Dillingham's the key. Terrence Shannon. They got to develop these young guys because you kill Alexander Walker, he might walk this free agency.
He could
might get a nice little contract where they can't really afford him. Like, they might still be able to afford him, but if he gets a nice fat deal and some team really believes in him, they might not be able to recoup him. And the good thing is they're benching Naz Reid. Like, you don't know what's going to happen in free agency. If they retain all their guys, like, the roster is just the roster. So I think Julius Randle is the one piece that he showed a lot this year in the playoffs that he was actually balling, but we saw in the conference final against an elite defense. He kind of
pumped the brakes.
He kind of faltered.
Yeah.
He kind of faltered. He had those Julius disappearing games, 1 for 7, like really, really bad playoff games where I'm just like, your bench won you the game and your stars blew it. And
I just don't know what they would do. I think that's my issue is like they're not going to be in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes or obviously.
Oh, they are. Maybe. We don't have rumors about that. I don't know if he's the answer.
They don't. No, man. And they don't have the draft capital. They'd have to go too far down to do draft capital.
Yeah, Phoenix. It would be irresponsible on both sides.
Yes,
to make that trade.
And Phoenix has already said that they're looking for a center. Right, I heard that. I don't know if that's guaranteed, but so unless they're willing to take Rudy Gobert off that, I don't know. But
my thoughts about if you're trying to build, like, the one thing that they really messed up on is giving all that money to Rudy Gobert as a foundational piece because he's a zero on offense.
Yeah, he is.
He's a zero on offense. We saw in the playoffs, like, you can put small guys on Rudy Gobert because he's not scary. Yeah. Unless he's playing against the Lakers. Like, I don't know what happened that game, but outside of that, like, Rudy Gobert is a zero on offense. I still don't know how he had 24 points in that closeout game. So
if I'm Devin Booker and that happens, I'm asking out.
Yeah. So, for sure.
Yeah. I'm out.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't see a move that gets them better than than getting to losing in the conference finals. I think that's when I mean no man's land. It's like they're in a great situation, but they're in no man's land of like, can we really get over the hump and get past the conference finals? Even if they make a move, they move off Julius. They're not going to get an unbelievable player that I just don't see it. I just think they're kind of stuck in that second round, maybe conference finals, losing in 6 games until they lose Gobert. That's really the biggest thing. Until they lose Gobert, they're kind of constricted.
Yeah, the GM definitely pretty much built this team on Ant-Man and Gobert because they gave up Cat because they couldn't afford Cat.
Yep.
And speaking of Cat, there's a reason why he was given up on. That defense. That defense, man, is atrocious. Some of his decision making, obviously, the fouls. We keep talking about the fouls. He kept doing stupid fouls. Like, it's just part of his character.
He's had that problem forever,
and it's not going to change. Like, I don't know if you saw, like, right after like Cat had that big game, and they actually the first game they actually won that weekend. The TNT asked him, like, why are you doing these stupid fouls? And Cat's like, only God knows. Like, I don't even know why he does these stupid fouls because it's just in his nature. He's a cat, man. He just he's curiosity, just doing these stupid fouls right there, right? So it's just built in his DNA, and a cat can get us change his stripes right now. Like, he's a veteran now. He's on a super max contract. He's making $200. He's going to be about to make $60 million on this contract. So He is who he is. He's a really good offensive player, and when he gets hot, he could drop 60 on you. He can score 20 in a quarter. He's an elite offensive player, but he's a defensive liability. And this whole Timberwolves went all defense with Ant-Man and try to have these elite wing defenders and Rudy Gobert, and they went all defense. So move the contract off. And the Knicks right now, that's their biggest problem. And it's crazy to say for a former Tibbs team that was their defensive mindset. Like, Tibbs gone, defense wasn't that good, but I think a lot was related to the personnel and the roster that they built it on. Even though OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, those are supposed to be elite two-way wings. Supposed to be, right?
Not Bridges.
Pascal Siakam was cooking.
He just smoked
Pascal Siakam is a really good player. But he looked like an awesome player against OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. His isolations, he always does that. He's kind of predictable. He does a little spin move that he just does a spin every time.
He move fade away.
That little midi. Like, he kept doing that same move.
And it worked.
And it worked all the time. He was just like he had multiple 30-point games, and Anunoby is supposed to be like an unbelievable defender. And Mikal Bridges, I remember one year he was in line for a defensive player of the year. I remember he was in competition with that Marcus Smart year where he won the DPO. Like, he was in line. I'm like, no DPOY. Like, are you kidding me? Like, Alex Caruso put a better effort defensively with the physicality and just being tough and pretty much playing up there. I don't like it when defenders give space. That's just lazy defense, man. That's just lazy. You can't be giving these guys space. We give them space. They got time to operate and get a guy like Pascal Siakam winning Eastern Conference MVP. I don't know about you guys. I was kind of flabbergasted when I saw that award given out to
He was
Siakam.
kind of the reason, man. Halliburton didn't show up a couple games in that
So
series.
did Siakam. He had 2 games where he was kind of off.
That first game, I felt like Siakam was bad, but after that, he kind of
After that, he was
picked it
fine.
up.
He had 2 off offensive games. Halliburton had 2 off offensive games. I would have definitely gave it to Halliburton because of his playmaking ability, and he is the franchise. If you give this Siakam, because
Siakam's the leader.
I don't know about that.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he's he's the leader. Halliburton is the floor general. He forces the pace. He's the identity of offense. It's like Steve Nash with the Phoenix Suns. Halliburton with the Pacers and the pace. They're the Pacers.
Yeah, but I'd rather listen to the guy who's been there.
Yeah,
I think
complimentary. He's a complimentary guy. For Kawhi, he's not the beautiful complimentary like Robin for Tyrese Halliburton.
But he's more.
I think Pascal's more of the. I think Pascal's the calming force for on the floor. If I need a bucket, I'm gonna just throw it to Pascal. He'll get an easier bucket. I don't think Halliburton yet is the game.
But that's
now
not his role.
Halliburton's clutch. Yeah, that's not his role. But I think just offensively or as a team, I think more players on that team are probably going to Pascal and talking to him.
Yes.
I think more than Tyrese. I think Tyrese is the leader because he's the point guard. But I think Pascal. I mean, it says a lot. He obviously wasn't an integral part of the Toronto Raptors winning, but he was the third option on that team, and he made clutch buckets. I think players in the league respect it, but it's 55-45. I don't think it's. Yeah,
he had 3 30-point games, and they all came in W's, and he had a couple of 15, 17, 17-point games. So he had 3 awesome games and 3 kind of just middling type of games.
And he won by 1 vote, right? It wasn't he.
Yeah, it was 1 vote. It was a one-sided vote. So it was definitely either way. But for me personally, it was Halliburton's award just based on his clutch shot, especially that one shot where obviously he forced overtime. Pretty much that was a win where if they don't win that game, who knows? Because there was a lot of weird things happening in the series. So that was a defining moment where they stole that game 1 and that set the tone for the entire series. The entire series was that on that one shot that forced overtime, and they were able to get it done. But Siakam's defense was unbelievable. That's one thing. Siakam on the defensive side, having these 2-way wings, we always talk about 2-way wings, right? You got to have these guys. You got to have these guys because the thing with the Knicks, they got these 2-way wings, but then their best players are their point guard and center and the defensive liabilities, and they attack them on pick and rolls every play.
Yep.
The entire offense, let's attack them. And then I just got to shout out Nembhard's defense on Brunson and his ability to be physical. And we always talk about can you win with your best player as a 6'2" point guard, even though Jalen Brunson is elite. Jalen Brunson put up 30 points a game. He's the face of the franchise. He changed the franchise, and he's the engine where he runs that heliocentric Luka Doncic, James Harden prime like heliocentric offense where he dribbles the ball and he dominates possessions and controls the game, pace, and everything. So like they were able to do that, but with Cat and Brunson as defensive liabilities, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, they went all in. $200 million contract, 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. Like, all their chips in the middle right now. They went all in. Like, I kind of get it trying to go all in, but I still remember when it was all in from Mikal Bridges. I'm like, that feels kind of premature. It feels kind of premature. Like, they had a nice, cute year last year. Dante DiVincenzo on that roster. They lost to this Pacers team last year, obviously. But, like, they felt like, okay, they went all in because the East is weak. But now I think the East is really, really weak. But the difference between last year and this year, there's a big fish out there in Giannis right now where he's an absolute wild card. And those 5 first-round picks could have really, really helped in securing Giannis. Maybe adding Giannis to this team. Oh, okay, now we're talking. Now we're talking a defensive guy, a two-way guy to complement this team where he could elevate. Okay, now we're talking – this guy, this is a perennial number 1 contender, but they went all in, which Mikal Bridges, we know what type of player he is. He's a nice complimentary player. I think he's the 3rd best player on a championship roster. If you pay him $200 million, you ain't winning nothing.
Nope.
Like, he's a complimentary. As you've seen, he disappears on offense. Same thing with OG Anunoby. He just disappears.
Man,
like, you think these guys just disappear, and your $200 million guys cannot be like, oh, I forgot he was on the court. I just forgot. Watching
and your $100 million player was the one carrying you.
Exactly. Like, Brunson is like, people that blame Brunson, I'm like, this dude's on the best value contract in the NBA right now because he is playing $50-60 million a year, like, worth of value right now because he's absolutely carrying this roster. But this Knicks team right now, the only blessing is they're in the Eastern Conference.
Yes.
They're in the Eastern Conference. Tatum is out. You got the Pacers, the Pistons, Bucks in flux. Like, they're going to probably be top 2 favored next year just based on roster construction relative to injuries. Orlando, see, these are all up and coming.
Magic.
Yeah,
even like their new uniform.
It might be their year because right now the East is so wide open that the Indiana Pacers. It's been over 20 years. 20 years. Like, Reggie Miller was on that roster. Reggie Miller, and he's on TNT now.
And
like,
you can't be talking here, man. You and I can't be talking smack about the Pacers not being there in 20. Man, Bulls, it's almost been 30. Come on.
I can't. I got to give you that because in the Central Division, the last 20 years, the Chicago Bulls are by far the worst. You got the Indiana Pacers making the finals. You got the Detroit Pistons winning a championship. You got the Milwaukee Bucks winning a championship. You got the Cleveland Cavaliers winning a championship. The only team in the Central Division that hasn't even made the finals. What conference we haven't made it is the Chicago Bulls. So in the Central Division in 2 decades, which is that's a big sample size. We last place.
That's disgusting.
Indianapolis, Detroit, and Milwaukee. No disrespect to these cities, but in Chicago, Cleveland, like, no disrespect. But are you kidding me?
Cleveland might be the worst one out of all that. Oh, maybe Detroit's probably the worst one because it's just like
those teams are better. I think they're all better run. They all have better teams, and they all got brighter futures currently.
Yes.
Maybe Milwaukee if Giannis leaves, but
if Giannis leaves, then
they already got the championship in the last 4 years, so they should be happy for the next 30 years. Next 30 years. Yeah. So that's
the only thing I got to say real quick about the Knicks, though. I think what this proved, and I know we're going to talk about the finals in a second, but the 2 deepest teams in the NBA are in the finals this year. Pacers and Thunder. They're the 2 deepest teams that we've seen play. You could argue the Wolves were pretty deep as well. They weren't as much as their opponent in the Thunder, right? So you put the Wolves in the East, they're probably in the finals right now, or at least took Indiana 7 games. I would more so say the Pacers would have taken them 7 games and probably lost because I would have probably favored the Wolves in that series. But I think you're looking at, to your point, Zoo, you put $200 million in 2 dudes, right? You got OG and you got Mikal. You got $100 million on Brunson, however much you have on Cat, right? Now, there's a reason they didn't pay Hartenstein last year was because of this situation, right? They weren't going to be able to afford a player of that caliber at $88 million contract. Where are they going to get enough to get some bench pieces, man? Because if they get rid of Tibbs, right, and the only reason I can justify it is because they don't think that his coaching style is conducive for a long playoff run.
I get that.
Right? No, and I agree.
We've been talking about that like all year round.
All of his career,
style.
we've said that.
Yeah.
Right? It's not conducive to make it that far. You kind of just get tapped out on his team. Well, you can't bring in another coach like, I don't know, a Johnny Bryant, who apparently is the lead per Vegas odds right now. But you can't bring him and say, okay, we need you to start including these other players off the bench and get him more into the rotation so Brunson doesn't have to play 40 minutes and Mikal doesn't have to play 42. Well, you got to actually have guys that you can trust off the bench in order to do that. I was surprised to see Rick Carlisle trusting a Thomas Bryant off the bench for his team.
We were talking about that, Thomas Bryant.
Look, Hoosier. But he trusted himself, and I know they were winning. You know, they were in a pretty decent spot, but he did hit some huge shots, and now he knows going into a series in the finals that you are going to need every single rotational player possible. He knows that he can probably trust Thomas Bryant in small spurts. Like, whatever coach comes into New York isn't going to be able to do that because, I'm sorry, outside of Deuce McBride, I don't like their bench at all. So where are they going to?
I got to shout out Landry Shamet.
Okay, Landry Shamet did have some.
He's a quality rotational guard. Where I remember when they were playing Campaign. You know what that was about? Campaign, aka Sid the Sloth. That guy should never play basketball. He should never be played.
No,
he's a high quality bench player.
So I think we were talking about like, do they need to make moves? I think the Knicks just need to solidify because their starting lineup is what it is right now. It is what it is. Just they have so much money in it, and they already gave up all the draft picks. What are they going to do to their bench? You know, can they afford, honestly, I know they probably can't afford it, but if they could have gotten a Nickeil Alexander-Walker for their bench, would have been absolutely fantastic. But now he's probably going to be too pricey for him. We'll have to see.
Yeah, that won't work.
I just don't like their depth at all. And I think this finals run or this playoff run has proven that you need to have at least 3 very solid, trustworthy players that you can play for at least 15 minutes off of your bench if you want to win a championship. Especially
7 or 8 deep. Yeah.
What the competition is doing and what they have at their arsenal.
Like I said, the only way the Knicks have a chance of getting any bench depth is they're going to have to get off of OG or Mikal.
Right. Yep.
And I don't know if how the franchise is being run now with Thibodeau being gone. It feels like OG would be the one on the chopping block because he's not a part of that Villanova Knicks, I guess, what is it? Mikal, Hart. Because I think right now, I don't know what you would even get for Hart. Like, he's an energy guy, but you're not going to get much. Got to keep
Hart. Like, he does a lot of different things than the stars. Like,
unless he's part of a trade package with another big name on the roster. But yeah, the Knicks, I'm more so just because they're Knicks, just keep it together. Even though it might get a little weird if they lose again next year, and you're gonna have to maybe decide between Brunson and Cat, and we know who's gonna lose that battle. It'll probably be Cat because Brunson has got his he's firm, like he's proven himself as the best player on the team, and I think any championship team in New York is going to be through Brunson and whoever else is around him. So they got some things to figure out, but like I said, they got to the conference finals. If they stay packed and they get a coach who can maybe somehow figure out some stuff on the edges, then maybe there's a chance they can get to the finals with a little bit more bench depth. Because to your point, you really need to have 3 guys on the bench. You need to have 3 solid rotation players, guys who are not going to make mental mistakes and guys who are going to be able to play on the road and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
With the Timberwolves, who I feel like out of these 2 teams could make a move or maybe should make a move. Again, like you said, people, I don't know what they do roster wise that makes sense without it being a massive move where if you make this move, it might alter you even getting back to this position, or a minuscule move where if you make that, little fringe trade, it's going to make it to where, hey, we're going to the finals now. So it sometimes just comes down to, like you guys said, develop Dillingham. I know maybe the excuse was, the West was tough. Everybody was crunched up. If Dillingham was out there for a couple of weeks and he wasn't playing well, that could have been them being, a couple games out of the playoffs. Who knows? But to me, that is on the coaching. Like sometimes you got to take that kind of risk because you don't, or maybe it's a miscommunication between management and the coaching staff. Because I think nobody could have predicted how the West was going to turn out this year in terms of being how competitive it was, but there needs to be a conversation between management and the coaching staff of like, hey, I know you want to win games, and Mike Conley is a guy who's going to win you games and not lose you games. But hey, Dillingham is somebody we need in the playoffs. So there needs to be some offset of minutes because we know Conley is going to, whether he's playing however many minutes he's playing or on the bench, he's going to be a consummate professional, and he's going to be, ready to play when his number's called in the playoffs if Dillingham struggles. But we got to get Dillingham, and Terrence Shannon got out there a little bit in the last series, but it's just like we need those guys ready. Yeah, and he played well. Now he's an older player, so and I know it's a very different position from point guard with what Dillingham would have to play, but yeah, experience is what's going to get him over the hump. So that has to be number one on any type of off-season moves. Like, hey, Dillingham needs to play a lot.
Yep.
And whatever we got to do that, he has to do that. Only thing I could see, and I don't know how the trade will work, because we're thinking about somebody, like you piqued my interest when you talked about somebody outside of Anthony Edwards getting their, shot off the dribble. I look at a team right now who has a number 2 pick with the Spurs is like, everybody's talking about Dylan Harper going there. What if you could figure out a trade to get De'Aaron Fox? I don't know what you would have to give up. They don't have any picks. I don't know how the contracts work in terms of the players who San Antonio would even want back. But maybe if there's a package with Dillingham being a part of that, I don't know, Terrence Shannon. I mean, I would be willing to give up on Dillingham and Shannon if it means I get Fox.
Fox and Ant would be an interesting combination. Though.
Yeah. And like I said, nobody's going to want Gobert, so I can't trade him.
Yeah.
Now, you could sell, if you're a salesman like Tim Connolly, his constructed teams, if you're a salesman, you could definitely sell the French Connection mentorship with Victor. Spurs are not dumb enough to buy it, but you could sell it. You could sell it for a sec, for whatever. But they're not going to buy that. But if there's a possible way you can get De'Aaron Fox, a guy who can get his shot off dribble, that would be interesting. Because honestly, like, Minnesota's not in win now, but I mean, you've been to conference finals 2 years in a row. And in this league, it's forever changing. Like, that is a big shot. That's a huge shot. But, I mean, you might be 1 or 2 seasons away from Anthony Edwards be like, man, it's cold as hell in here. It's cold as hell in Minnesota. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, if he feels like we're kind of like stuck.
It's a little warmer. Come on.
Yeah, so.
Come where your father played, come on.
But, like I said, Julius is going to probably opt in, do whatever, or he's going to opt out and see if there's a bidder for him. Like I said, he did show up in the playoffs, but, that last series, which is hard to judge him on because I know it's freaking OKC, and it's just, I don't care who you are. Everybody's going to have a rough series against them. But I'm just thinking to myself, like, if I'm Tim Connolly, I know I can't trade Gobert. I'm trying to think of my assets of who people are going to want. They're probably going to want Julius Randle. They're probably going to want Jaden McDaniels, which I don't know. I think
Jaden McDaniels is probably the most tradable asset, but I wouldn't want to trade him.
Yeah, because he's what we talked about, the 3 and D. Yeah. So I don't know, but I'm thinking about another on-ball creator, and De'Aaron Fox is the first one I come to mind. To a lesser extent, Trey, but he's kind of a little bit more of a ball hog, so I don't know if that would be a fit. And he's you want to talk about just a liability on defense. That's a tough look with Trey. But he is an explosive guard. So maybe, someone in that way that's just the guard in that backcourt that could be a pairing with Ant as someone who can, when Ant's, trying to get his own shot, or like, I can't remember what game it was against OKC where he was struggling, or he didn't shoot within the first 7 or 8 minutes. That he's got another guy who can just go get buckets and he can just kind of get his bearings about himself. But to your point, it's going to be tough because, like I said, with all this stuff that we're talking about right now, with whether it's the Knicks or the T-Wolves, everything is constructed to where you have your 2 guys, and if you pick those 2 guys, depending on the length of their contract, you got to stick with them. And it's up to you to figure out, unless you're trading one of those guys, which would be tough, you got to figure out how to maneuver around that. But I don't know, man. Getting to the conference finals is tough to make changes because it just feels like you're right there. I think if I'm the T-Wolves, though, I feel like there's more apt to make it because the Knicks really do have a beef of, if that stupid shot doesn't go down, we're probably in the freaking finals. So it's like we were right there. The T-Wolves, on their hand, they just kind of got obliterated. So it's like,
that wasn't even the contest. Like,
it was a tough look. So, I never want to say there's not trades because the NBA and most sports, but the NBA, they always can figure out something.
I'm telling you, I feel like there are going to be a lot of trades because they see that window right now. Like in the West, obviously OKC is the team, but in the East, I feel like a lot of teams in the East are going to go for it right now. They're going to unload some draft picks. They're going to make some trades to try to win now and make the finals. Because I'm telling you, if the Indiana Pacers can make the finals, you can make the finals in the East, man. This thing makes other franchises feel confident. Like Halliburton, like Siakam, those are your two best players, and they made the finals. I'm like, those guys aren't like superstars. Like they're maybe now Halliburton's a top 12 player now. Siakam out of top 30, like 35, 40 player. Like so, if they don't have like super high end guys, like
so balanced, man. But there's
if I'm the Knicks, I'm not picking up the phone unless it's about Giannis. Though, if I do have to make a trade, it's only about Giannis. I'm not trading for nothing else.
I think their biggest move that they made, or they already made it, was the head coach. Because I don't think they could trade the players unless they get Giannis. Obviously, if you get a Giannis deal, do whatever to get that done. But I think that's not likely. So they made a change in coach. And I'm telling you, that offense, that Tibbs offense, stagnant, predictable. like I've been saying it for a year. Like he does the same thing for it's been 2 decades of doing the same thing, and he hasn't really changed it up. I think we were talking about that in the Pistons series. They just very predictable offense. I was like, I'm kind of surprised they were able to get into the conference finals with this predictable offense, with these miracle multiple 20-point comebacks, but they were able to do it. And I guess the head honchos at the Knicks were like, maybe we did get kind of lucky in making it this far, because you see that Boston series, coming down 20 multiple times, that is a miracle.
Yeah,
that is an absolute miracle. And then
even though they did it, it's still kind of
it was a situation where everything was lining up for them to make that miracle run to the finals, and they couldn't even get on. They couldn't even force a Game 7 against the Pacers team, where they were the favorite team in the beginning of the series. The Knicks were favored, and they couldn't get it done. So I think that was the biggest reason why.
This won't happen. This won't happen because of his connections. What if the Bucks we'll trade, but we want Brunson? Would you do it?
No.
If it's somehow a straight up Giannis, I don't. Just thinking of I know Brunson it wasn't his fault they lost, but it's a reason why there's only been 2 to 3 guys in the history of this league that has been 6'2" and been the leader and won.
Yeah.
If you told me, I ain't gonna and I know Rick Brunson would probably strangle me, but if there was just this is fantasy land, and I don't know if
fantasy 1-to-1 trade, I think Knicks would do it.
I would do it. Yeah. Giannis, OG, Mikal, that's a massive team. I'll just go get a freaking free agent, Trey Jones or something, to go run point. I don't care. Just go get him. Him and McBride, 1 and 2. I'll just go do that. But that won't ever happen. And it would be cooler if Brunson won with the Knicks. But that's beside the point. I don't know if you guys want to go to the finals or you want to talk about the head coach. It doesn't really matter.
Thibodeau, we talked about him enough, man. We know why.
Talked about him now. So, getting into this finals matchup, I know a lot of people who are bettors and people who are casual watchers of the NBA kind of just look at this and look into the files. And I think I want to say, God, I was just watching it where they were saying there was some finals back in the early 2000s. I think it was Lakers and Pistons might have been the largest spread. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it's the largest spread in terms of the deficit. And it's I think this one's second. So most people are on the side of OKC. So I know people are upset about, I guess, and this is for people who don't really truly watch basketball, but they're kind of upset of these are not name brand teams and players. But what is your guys' thoughts, Zoo, starting off with you, about just the finals and maybe I guess your prediction of how you think it's going to go, games, things of that nature. What are you looking at?
Absolutely. OKC, I'm telling you right now, they already played their hardest challenge. It was against the best player in the world. They had that 7-game series bloodbath, and that was a back and forth series. And Cruz and everybody, he's I almost died on the court guarding Jokic. It was ridiculous. They went 110% out, especially defensively, and have to be smart against that roster. And after that 7-game series, now they're cruising. Get the little T-Wolves team, beat them in 5. And this Pacers team, I got them in 5 games. I got OKC in 5 games right now. They're rolling now. This is one of those. I'm wow, they're actually going to do it. You got the MVP and SGA. You had the best team all year. Every analytic, top 5 defense, top 5 offense. They're all healthy. That's the number 2 thing. They're all healthy. You got Jalen Williams, actually, J-Dub showing up as the number 2 option. He had some rough couple playoff games, but definitely in the T-Wolves series, he had an awesome series in that game. They left him open a couple times. He just hit some big shots against the T-Wolves right now. So SGA has his Robin guy. He's also he got a Scottie Pippen. That's what he got. A 2-way wing guy where he's the complimentary guy. 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Does a little everything for this guy. And they got Chet Holmgren being down there as their rim protector. and you got Alex Caruso, and you got all these dogs down there defensively. Like this defense versus like the Pacers going from the Knicks defense to OKC defense. Oh, it's gonna be a rude awakening. It's gonna be a rude awakening, man, because you go from guys like Brunson and Cat, and you got some dogs on defense right here. You got Alex Caruso, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, Isaiah Hartenstein down low, Shea, who's a good defender, and Lou Dortcher Chamber, man. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, the physicality, like, good luck, Siakam, because I don't think he's be cooking that hard with these physicality in defense, man. I don't think so. I know for a fact Halliburton is going to struggle.
Yes.
Like 100, because I love
tough.
Halliburton. He's a finesse guy. He's just a finesse guy.
Not a very quick first step.
Yeah, like I was surprised.
He's more
like,
of a herky-jerky type.
Yeah, like I don't know how Halliburton was able to drive down the lane on the Knicks so easily, but their lack of defense and lack of, I guess, communication or foot speed, like they weren't allowed to contain him, and especially driving down. And he had that floater going. Like he get that floater going. Like Halliburton was just getting like these open floaters every single time he drove the basketball. Yeah, good luck against this roster because, as we mentioned last week, they got no holes on defense, and they got a platoon off the bench of guys that are potential all-NBA defenders coming in and just freaking physicality. That's the thing. They're going to bring that physicality to this defense. Like, good luck, Miles Turner, with the physicality of Hartenstein down low, man. Like, the physicality, I think, is going to wear out this Pacers team. Even though the Pacers all run, and gun, they're playing against the one team in the playoffs that's younger than, like, this OKC team age-wise. They're younger than this Pacers team, and it's a really young Pacers team. That's why they went with the run, went with the pace. Like, they had better stamina than their opponents. But they're playing against a team where that's not going to really work. Yeah. That team is younger than them and more talented and more physical. So, like, shout-outs to the Pacers for pulling off the impossible because I did not foresee an Indiana Pacers finals appearance. I believe in the beginning of the series of them winning a championship, it was 28-1. Like, 28-1. So, like, this Pacers team, like, Vegas didn't really give him a shot. I didn't really give him a shot. I still can't believe them.
No one did, yeah.
Like, I don't even think Pacers team believed it. Because I remember I was like, oh, yeah, I'll take the Pacers over the Milwaukee Bucks because the Bucks were injured. But after that, I was like, not sure against the Cavs. They took advantage, and then they whooped the Knicks. So, like, shout-outs to them for making it. But if they pull off this upset,
my God.
Oh, I don't even understand. Unless it's an injury or some, like, non-basketball related reason where if both teams are both 100% healthy, I don't see how this team could beat it. But unless like Tyrese Halliburton turns into Steph Curry and Steve Nash in a one, like I don't even know what it's gonna be. Like, I don't know what's against this defense. Against this
Steph
defense,
Curry and Steve Nash would be winning
Steph Curry and Steve Nash and Siakam got to turn into like freaking Kevin Durant and Giannis, man. That's what it's gonna take against this team because this defense. And the offense is a great offense too with Shea and the shooters and the passing. It's one of the better passing teams in the NBA. They don't run that stagnant offense. Like everyone does their thing. They can also shoot in the mid-range with SGA's amazing mid-range game. So good luck to the Pacers.
And his foul merchant ways, yeah.
They do get the foul line a lot. SGA, it's an art that he's mastered. So they can score in all sorts of ways. Free throws, three-pointers, layups. They got bigs. They got guards. They got everything. So well done, Sam Presti. But shout out to the Pacers for even making it. Shout out to Rick Carlisle for coaching the hell out of that team.
Top 10 coach, top 15 coach ever.
We were talking about how wide open the East is, man. Right? How wide open. Like, are we that shocked that it actually happened to be wide open?
Yes.
I am.
I still can't believe it.
They got lucky.
I really can't.
They got lucky that the Celtics.
Yeah, the Cavs and the Celtics obviously had injuries, which
but I think these. Look, I'll be right here. The way the Pacers were playing, I do not put it past that they could have beat a healthy Cavs team.
Yeah,
Darius Garland was
not 6 or 7, and
Darius Garland was injured. He was
injured, but he was also
through a significant toe sprain injury.
But he was also
he had a real injury though.
Yeah, they didn't even think he was gonna play.
He was hurt though, and Mobley he could play. So yeah, they beat him fair and square. I mean, it's just one guy they lost.
Yeah, but look, at the same time, they're playing the best basketball right now outside of the Thunder. I think we can all agree there. They are the second best team that played in this playoffs right now. Wow. I agree. I think Nembhard and Halliburton are going to severely struggle. I think the only way they're going to win is just insane movement. Now, let's be honest. If you're looking at the offenses that have been playing in the playoffs, the Pacers do move the ball extremely well. And they don't turn the ball over that much. I think that's the other big thing. The Thunder were averaging 10 to 12 steals a game against the Timberwolves, man. I mean, that is insane. And the Timberwolves were very careless with the basketball. And why is that?
Just like
because
the Knicks.
They don't have a point guard. This is the first team that the Thunder have to play with a true point guard to run the offense. So I'm interested to see. I know they'll adjust for that, and they're an unbelievable defensive team. They're going to be ready for Halliburton, of course. But if they say, look, we're not going to let you score, he's fine. He's not that point guard that's like, I'm still going to force up 15 shots. He's like, that's fine. I'll just get 15 assists, man, and I'll just move the ball around. I think the only one, and you kind of brushed it off. I was pretty surprised. I actually think Pascal could feast on Chet. I'm sorry. If you can get Chet kind of in roller skates, which Pascal Siakam can do. I know there's the spin cycle, but he's got good footwork, man. And sure, he has the reach to recover on a fadeaway jump shot and attempt to block it. But that is the matchup that you can take advantage of. It's not going to be on the perimeter. You already covered that, Zoo. They're kind of screwed in that front unless Neesmith goes Tracy McGrady again.
That's what about Lou Dort?
And then Lou Dort's on him, right? Exactly. So my point is, of all the defenders, Hartenstein's going to have to match up with Miles Turner. We already talked about the backcourt plus small forward matchup. You're going to have to bring Chet out to the perimeter, and I know he's not a scrub on the perimeter.
No, I'm not putting Chet on Siakam. I'm putting more of a perimeter guy. I'm putting J-Dub.
Okay, and so then who's Chet guarding? Neesmith?
I mean, you could put
him around for threes all night. Hell no, man. They're going to take advantage. They have one.
Yeah, they do rock 5 shooters. So
they rock 5 shooters, man. And
that's a good thing about the Pacers. Yeah,
and Hartenstein has to come out. Hartenstein has to come out and guard Turner. He's got to honor that. This is the hardest matchup. I know it's Jokic and all that, but outside of Jokic. And yeah, Jamal Murray's a beast and all. I'm sorry, man. I'm not worried about Christian Braun. I know he gave you a nice little 25-piece.
Aaron Gordon had that series of his lifetime.
Yeah. And you think the Thunder, they can outlast any other team? Sure, but those bench guys are not going up against scrubs, man. They got Obi Toppin, they got TJ McConnell, who's also a very good point guard. Benedict Mathurin finally came alive.
He showed up the last couple games of the series.
That's probably the biggest X factor.
They need another scorer.
So that's the thing. Like, this Thunder team cannot lull them to sleep by guarding 1 or 2 guys that are the only 2 playmakers on the team. Pacers have a lot of options. I wrote down a couple notes here. The only things I'm concerned about with the Pacers are they need Neesmith to be completely healthy. He had that ankle issue. He's kind of banged it up multiple times. He was like coming in and out of games there for a little bit. He's got to be 100% healthy. Him and Nembhard both have to be getting at least 12 points a game. And if one of them is below that, the other one has to be putting up a 20-piece if they want to be in the series. And lastly, I'm so sorry. I just talked about Miles Turner needing to be able to hit a 3 because they need Hartenstein for offensive rebounding purposes. They need to get him out of the paint. That is a huge draw for them. But the thing is, Miles and Obi Toppin cannot get 3 happy. I'm sorry. Obi Toppin, they won that series, but Obi Toppin almost lost them that series because he was just getting a little too greedy, getting too dribbly with the basketball. Let your playmakers, even if they're struggling with who is defending them. And that means Halliburton, whether he gets Caruso, whether he gets Cason Wallace, whoever it might be. Even if he is struggling shooting, you have to let him facilitate the basketball. And I think it's going to be a lot of 2-man game. I think they're going to try and get Halliburton onto Chet in a pick and roll. I think that's the only way he's going to take advantage, and or Hartenstein. And I think they're going to try and pick on Chet, whoever's guarding him, whether it be on the perimeter or if they can get Siakam down on the block. I'm not saying I'm picking the Pacers in this series, but I do have it going to 6 games, and I got the Thunder in 6. It's going to be more competitive than people think, I think. That's my point.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I think, too. I think it's, and I always say in every series, if you can get game 1, then, you're playing with house money, and it kind of feels like the Pacers, how the basketball gods have been blessing them. They've been getting game 1. By hook or crook, they've been getting it. And in the case when they played Cleveland, they got that, Halliburton hit that incredible shot in game 2. So they've always kind of been ahead of the curve in terms of just the series, at least the last 2 series. But the one thing I'm looking at on the Pacers side, if I'm like, hey, I want to kind of map out a way they could make this series super competitive and take it 7, which would be a tough game to win at OKC because their home crowd is incredible. So maybe you want to end it at 6 if you're the Pacers. But the one thing I'm thinking about is Pascal Siakam, who we just talked about a little bit earlier. You know, he had 3 30-point games in the last series. He won the Eastern Conference Award or whatever. He needs to come out as the elder statesman and the guy in this series on both sides who have been in a finals environment, was playing the Golden State Warriors and was hitting. I still remember I was at this bar in Columbia. We was at a minor league baseball game, and Pascal Siakam was hitting shots in the middle of the court to like clinch the game. I remember that still. It was a couple floaters, but I just remember watching that. I was like, Pascal, not scared of the moment, but he needs to come out and be like, I am the number one option, and treat himself as that. And they need to run plays. I'm sure I'm talking like Carlisle doesn't know this, but he needs to come out and assert his authority and be like, I'm the number one guy, and I'm going to score on OKC by hook or crook, however I need to do it. Now, that's not to say Halliburton just needs to be passive and not really play his game, because he needs to score as well. Like, that's probably going to be another reason why the Pacers could maybe take the series if Halliburton really comes out of his shell and kind of emphasizes his scoring ability, because while he's not the most athletic and he's not the high flying, like dunking over top of you and one type of guy, he's very crafty in how he can get into the lane. And Halliburton, once he kind of gets you positioned, he's really good at finishing, with contact and getting up to the hole. He's really good at that. And he has a pretty decent mid-range game. So those are the two things I'm looking at. I think the last thing I wrote down for Indiana is you definitely need to match their energy in terms of running. Like, I know they're younger and they can run too, but that's how they played the entire series. They have to do that. They can't get out of themselves and try to think, oh, well, we're going to do a little half court, or we're going to maybe try to slow it down and get Siakam in sets. Like, no, keep running. Because when the Pacers are on the floor and it don't matter who's coming off the bench or whatever, they have, for most times in most situations, got 4 guys on the floor that can score, or 5. Like, everybody can hit a 3-pointer that comes out on the court outside of Tony Bradley, who I doubt is going to play. And
Thomas Bryant will get the minutes.
Yeah, I don't think. And I mean,
he's 3 for 3 from 3, man.
Jarris Walker, like, he's a guy that got last year, I think, whatever. Like,
he's missing injured, the first 2 games.
Yeah, he'll be out, but he's not a 3-point threat, is my point. So you need to be in situations where you're running, you're getting clean looks. Because even when you was watching, I think, Game 6, when it was still kind of fuzzy to where we don't know if Indiana's going to win the game, it felt like anytime there was like an offensive rebound or like a defensive rebound, they would just get it and just throw it ahead. And
throw ahead?
It's like 50-50. It's like 50-50, like,
you're
like doing a route.
Yep.
And it felt like their player always won that, and then they just got the easy bucket. So you need to kind of make sure that is a constant thing. Be on the boards, get rebounds, get outlets, and just keep playing. Because there is a world, like, to Peebles' point, like, if Pascal is really on his game, he could be drawing Chet out. And then, like you said, with OKC, the one cool thing that they have going for them is they can switch a lot of different defenders. But, for instance, if J-Dub is on him, I don't think you necessarily want J-Dub guarding Siakam, because if he gets in foul trouble, then you're really kind of in a situation where now I love Case and Wallace. He comes off the bench, hits a couple threes, and he plays really good defense and plays fast. And I do love Chet. He could maybe, if J-Dub wasn't getting in foul trouble, he could become like the number 2 guy, make some plays. But, this is going to be interesting to see how OKC responds, because there could be a little bit of, because it's just human nature. When you're looking on the other side and you're OKC, you're seeing the Pacers.
We're the better team.
You're going to feel arrogant. We're the better team.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we've never been here, we just feel like it's due for us. And that could have put you in situations where you're not as dialed in and focused. Like, it felt like how Anthony Edwards was playing in the last 2 series, like after they beat the Lakers, just like he's coming out in game 1 just being weird and not being how he should be. And then sometimes they won, sometimes they lost. But it was like, no, bro, you got to keep that on.
Or the Celtics.
That could be,
Or the Celtics against the Heat a couple years ago in the conference finals.
Yeah.
Very similar.
And like they had now, Jimmy Butler's, we all know, is a different playoff guy. So, I think if OKC was playing the Miami Heat, they would have way more respect for Jimmy Butler because they've seen what he's done in the playoffs. But there could be some arrogance in some, the coronation's already started. Because I'm pretty sure they're hearing everywhere that you should take care of them in 5 to 6 games. And the Pacers, one thing that they've done is they have always played the underdog role well. Like, I mean, I know like the Knicks series was weird because that game won, but it's like even still when they won that game one, a lot of people was like, okay, New York's going to tie it up, and then they're going to get back to Indiana, take control, and then win the series because they have Jalen Brunson and all these guys. But Indiana was like, no, and there is something with like I said, I'm not predicting OKC in 6. Like OKC, if I'm betting man, I'm betting OKC in 6 or 5, but would not shock me in the least if Indiana's is 2-2. Because Indiana, the basketball gods are on their side, man. Every series they've had either the shot with New York or with Cleveland when Halliburton hit that shot. Now, Halliburton, the Cleveland shot was definitely something he created. That was an elite shot. But they're not scared. So if you're telling me Indiana's going to be playing disrespected and they're playing, full throttle, and then OKC's a little like lackadaisical, they could steal a game. I will say this though, OKC better not lose. They better dominate game. They better come out in game 1 and like destroy them. Because if Indiana gets any part of that game 1, this is going 7. Because now the confidence is out the roof. And I don't think OKC has been tested. I know Denver.
Okay,
but that's different because Jokic is he's a pantheon, like great, like I always say. So they probably would say they wasn't nervous, but like they got tested, but they really outside of that, it's just like Minnesota didn't do nothing in the first round season. I think they kind of feel like they've arrived. And they, Shea is going to get his calls, but we don't know.
Pascal
just
Siakam
don't lose game 1.
3,000 for Finals MVP.
Plus 3,000?
2,000.
That's believable, but no. I will say though, if Indiana somehow won, it will be because Pascal Siakam is playing. It won't be because of Tyree. It'll be Pascal Siakam's averaging 32 and going just crazy. So that would be the reason why. But yeah, it's OKC. If they come in determined and what they're supposed to do, they're winning in 5 or 6. Because to your point, I mean, Dorchard Chamber. You got Caruso could probably have minutes on Pascal and probably play pretty well.
I would put Caruso. Like Caruso for a guard plays really well against these bigs. Like he guarded Jokic. If you could guard Jokic for an entire game, you can put him on anybody.
Caruso does get in foul trouble. We got to remember that.
It's all good. He'll be playing his 25 minutes. It's all good.
Again, like that's obviously Pascal needs to be the number 1 guy, but to your point, Obi, he needs to be 1 or 2 threes a game and crashing the boards and getting to the rim. That's what he needs to be doing. He don't, like to your point, he don't need to be shooting threes.
No.
Miles, if Miles is making his threes, that's going to pull out. Like there are scenarios because it's not like with Indiana, we're looking like, well, we need Tyrese to have 30 and we need Siakam to have 30 and everybody else is feeling like, no, they're more of a by committee. Kind of like OKC, even though really it's Shea and J-Dub. But, I would do what I would. Last thing, I would put every switchable defender. Hopefully, Nesmith is healthy. Nesmith, Nembhard, Pascal, whoever on your wings. Maybe Obi topping minutes on Shea. I would literally just completely take him out the game. He's going to get his points, but try to take him out the game and make J-Dub, Chet beat me because this is the finals. This is the finals.
The lights might be. I'm interested to see how.
He's going to play well, but it's.
Yeah. As you mentioned, like I'm gonna hound SGA. I'm gonna make J-Dub and Chet Holmgren to be offensive scorers and
Case and Wallace, all those guys.
Because we were in a SGA. This dude's putting up 30 points a game again in the playoffs. Like SGA's a regular season guy. SGA is a playoff guy, so he's nothing to worry. He's the MVP for a reason. Like J-Dub, Chet Holmgren, we can see if he can put up 20 points a game and now in the finals right now. Maybe you double team SGA, force other guys to be playmakers and scorers.
Carlisle,
make them decision makers.
He's the better head coach for sure. It's been good, but Carlisle, and if this become a coaching battle, Carlisle is good. Yeah, he's way above Dagno.
He almost got out coached by David Adelman, man, aka Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, David Adelman was not.
He got played by Nikola Jokic almost. That's Adelman, and he got hired, so maybe he's better than we thought. I don't know, or maybe that's just who Jokic likes. I don't know.
Yeah,
I doubt Murray or Gordon or Porter has any decision on who the head coach is going to be. So maybe Adelman's just Jokic's guy. But it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping that it goes at least 6 or 7, just because it's more basketball, and I want it to be interesting. But yeah, if I'm a bet man, the coronation feels like it's starting for OKC.
Coronation started, but this is the key, man. I got to shout out the Pacers for this. They got to turn this team over. They got to force turnovers against OKC right now because like we saw how their defense did and made Brunson could barely dribble up half court. Like, and the number of turnovers, and you guys mentioned the pace. You got to force turnovers, get offense, and just run every single time. You do not want to play against a set defense with OKC. You got to get as many easy, cheesy, cherry picking baskets. I'm like, I don't know. Pascal Siakam's like the greatest runner ever. Like the minute they get a rebound, he's all the way down the court already. He's open for another layup.
He's a mini Giannis.
He did that a couple of times against the Knicks. I'm like, I don't know if the Knicks are just slow and lazy or Pascal's just
they're tired. They're playing 45 minutes a game.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like freaking dying and trying to keep up with these guys. So I think like that's the key. They got to get these offensive rebounds. They got to force turnovers to get extra possessions. They got to run. They just got to run and play their style. No set defenses because they're the underdogs and they're going to stay the underdogs regardless of. Even OKC lose again, they're going to still be underdogs after game one, even if they win. So we'll see. We'll see if they can pull off a miracle. Because if they pull this off, this will be one of the greatest miracle stories I've seen in the NBA.
This will be the biggest upset in NBA Finals.
Yeah, history. Since Detroit, LA,
or top two.
Yeah, when Shaq and Kobe Lakers lost to the Pistons with no
All
Stars.
The Heat.
Well, they had Dirk was a megastar, but it would be in the top
up there too. Yeah, they were favorites. Yeah.
But they also were going against three other megastars. So yeah. But it would have to take, to your point, is like the Shea or like J-Dub just goes completely off kilter and just is going like after game 3, he's like 5 for 45 or something. It's like what is going on?
He's done it before.
Yeah, I'm making him beat us.
Yes,
SGM. I'm scared. I'm making him beat us. Yeah, I'm making him beat us.
Him and Chet. So we're gonna see. Like I said, I'm hoping the Pacers come out and fight and make this at least a 6-game series. Hopefully a 7. That would be nice for just personally watching more NBA. But it's kind of sad it's coming to an end, and then I think the NBA draft is like a couple weeks later, or at least a month later. So we're gonna be talking that, of course, and next thing you know, it's July, then we're gonna be talking football. So you guys have to tune in.
Let's go, boys.
Yeah. Gotta tune into the podcast page with Tyson Talks _ on Instagram, YouTube, Quantrill Knows, bunch of content, college football wise, NFL wise, NBA wise, college basketball wise, the whole 9 with that. Make sure you give us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. If you're on Instagram, like our stories, things of that nature. And for me, Zoo, and P-Bush, we are out.